Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Leading in a Crisis webinar today. My name is Wendy Carrick. I will be your host, and I am proud to present our next webinar on Unlock the Creative Potential of Your Teams. I, for one, am really excited about seeing this presentation. It's an introduction to the Simplexity Method of Applied Innovation with Dr. Moran and Tim Basadur. Did I get it right, Tim?
Good enough.
All right, awesome. So welcome. The first thing I wanted to do is just thank our sponsors. We have been working with the Whitmarsh Consulting Group at Turnkey for years. He is really part of our marketing arm and does a great job helping us to get the word out. He's full of human resource information consulting, email marketing, multi-channel marketing, and communication strategy. He does a lot of white papers, a lot of research. David is just a great partner for us. Secondly, we have been partnering on this summit with Insperity, which I'm sure most of you have heard about. It's a great HR kind of outsourcing company that does it all. It's one of the biggest. And they, for attending this seminar, are offering a free HR financial analysis report and debrief. So if you're interested in that, please email turnkeycoachingsolutions.net/HR report, and we'll be happy to get that out to you right away. Also, we have several programs at Turnkey. Data-driven crisis in a strategy is one thing that we've been doing, and would be more than happy to help with strategic planning and alignment if it's something that anyone is interested in. Let me introduce myself. Typically, it's our CEO, Anissa, that hosts these, but she's busy today, so she's asked me to do it, and I'm so delighted to be here. I am currently the VP of People at Turnkey Consulting. I do a variety of things here. My background is 35 years of learning and development, talent management, and HR. So happy to be here, happy to introduce to you now Ellen and Tim. Ellen, as you can see from her brief bio on the slide there, is certified, has a PhD in psychology, really is passionate about coaching and learning new things. If I had to describe Ellen in one word, it's always learning. I guess that's two words, right? But Ellen is certified in, as you can see, many things: Certified International Coach Federation, multiple assessments for leadership, team dynamics, and organizational culture, which is just right and near and dear to my heart. So welcome, Ellen. We're so happy to have you. And Tim Basadur delivers and leads applied creativity projects for corporate clients. He would have to really explain that to me. So I'd understand. So Tim is also a doctoral candidate at DePaul University, another one of these really, really smart people, and an adjunct professor at Northwestern Illinois University. So welcome, Tim. Welcome, Ellen. We are so happy to have you. And with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Tim and Ellen. One thing for everybody, we are going to be taking questions via chat and asking questions via chat. So feel free to use your chat and engage with us. We'd love to have an interactive time on these webinars. So Tim, take it away.
Absolutely. Ellen, you want to get us started?
All right. Well, as this whole conference over the past few months has been about, times are changing, and businesses too. COVID-19 thrust us in March into a whole new experiment on how we as companies are going to adapt to discontinuous change. And there are evolving business conditions, and they continue to evolve. The other thing that's happened in the last couple of weeks is all of the social unrest and the awareness we have now of bias in our institutions. This is going to put new urgency around dealing with bias, diversity, and inclusion in our companies. There's going to be increasingly more pressure on teams to adapt to and to solve these challenges. So We think that the Basadur methodology that Tim and I have been using in organizations for quite a while together is uniquely valuable to help us solve both of these, both the innovation and the diversity challenge. So for this morning, our learning agenda is, first of all, to talk with you about what are the characteristics of really effective organization and what is really important for us right now. We're going to introduce you to what's considered the primary innovation skill, how you separate divergence, which is coming up with a bunch of ideas, from convergence, which is zeroing in on the few that make the most sense. We're going to offer you a process that has 4 critical phases. And going through these 4 phases helps ensure that what you do is solve the real problems you have and not just chase after symptoms. We hope to offer you a couple of practical tools for each phase of the process. And then finally, we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into the 4 innovation styles that people use when they come together to solve problems, what you use and what you'll start to notice on your teams. Now, these styles, when they're working really well, can create synergy and the magic of innovation. But if they're not working well together, it can create conflict and obstacles for us. So, Tim, why don't you take us right into the characteristics of effective organizations?
All right, absolutely. So good morning, everybody. Characteristics of effective organizations. What you see in front of you is the very fine-tuned and distilled work of a man named Paul Mott, who looked at a number of different organizations in a number of different industries, with the research question basically saying what makes some organizations more effective than others. And he narrowed it down to 3 basic things. He said the more effective organizations are very good at flexibility. And by flexibility, he meant they're very good at reacting. Something changes in the environment and they respond to it well. Second thing he said was efficiency, doing the routines better and better and better. And then finally, he said the more effective organizations are really good at adaptability, and that's being proactive, changing when you don't have to. And in typical times, we would probably put our focus on the adaptability, but in the current times, I think we're aware that all organizations are now firmly in a flexibility scenario. Okay, so just to give you some examples, well, first I would like you guys to think about your own organizations in terms of flexibility, efficiency, and adaptability. But in particular, how is your organization doing in the current pandemic? How has it responded? And with the social unrest we've seen in the last few weeks and 2 to 3 weeks, and maybe enter those your judgments on that in the chat. You know, saying my company's doing great, or maybe not so much. But when we talk about efficiency, just to give you some examples. Typically, people talk about Toyota and Honda with the Kanban systems, the just-in-time inventory, and so on. Anyone, you know, the Toyota way, anyone can stop the assembly line at any time for any reason that they see in terms of quality or continuous improvement. And then finally, for adaptability, 3M is a classic example. It's a company where they have a standing. It's actually written that 25% of revenues have to come from products introduced in the last 5 years. That just absolutely mandates coming up with new things and innovating. And then another example, classic example now is Apple. No one told Steve Jobs to invent the iPhone or the iPod. Prior to Apple coming out with the iPhone, BlackBerry had 90% of the market, actually over 90%, and thought they were firmly established and found the industry completely disrupted. So those are classic examples from our perspective of efficiency and adaptability. Going to move us forward now into another kind of framework that we use to go through what we do. All right, and so if you want to get innovative results, the first thing you have to have is you have to have the right knowledge. You have to have the right content. So your team, your people have the knowledge. And if they don't, you can probably go out and find people who have knowledge that you feel you're missing. But just having the knowledge isn't enough. You need a process that everyone uses, the same process to synchronize people's thinking so that they solve those problems, solve those challenges together. They work together and not at cross purposes. If you've ever been in a meeting, you've likely had the experience where someone doesn't even know why they should have the meeting because they already know what to do. Yet you have other people in the room who are saying, I don't even know really what the problem is. Another person saying, I think we really need to come up with ideas. Those are all different points in the process of solving things, and you need to get people aligned. So a good process will help you do that, and we're going to go through that today. But even then, a good process isn't quite enough. You need good skills in that process. And we're going to talk about the process skills for innovation that we have used and we have developed, but also tools. So a tool for us is brainstorming, and just about everybody has been in a brainstorming session. But typically when we ask people what the rules of brainstorming are, most people don't know anything that there even are rules, let alone what the rules are. And so how good can you be with a tool if you're not really using it well and as it was designed? The last thing we'll talk about, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time on it, is the profile. This is, everyone has their own unique problem-solving style or innovation style, and we're going to share with you the different styles that we see and we talk about. Okay, and so when you're doing these, when you have these things working well together, you're going to get innovative results. Okay, moving on. So let's get into the skills. All right, so there are three, and you can see two are pretty well explained: diverge and converge. So when we're diverging, you cannot be wrong. If you think it, say it, share it. There's a reason it popped into your head at that particular time. So let us know, right? Share everything. And you are also not judging what other people say. It's not that you don't think critically. We want you to think hard, but don't think don't think in terms of criticism. Don't judge. If someone says something, someone says the sky is blue and you don't agree, well, don't say I disagree with that. Turn around and say, well, I think the sky is gray. I think the sky is black, whatever it might be. We want more options. So not debate over whether an option is good enough or not. We want multiple options, and this is all why we're diverging. When we are done diverging, we're really happy with the quantity we have and the different perspectives. Great. But now we move into convergence, and that is where you do use your judgment. We do want logic applied, but you're doing it open-mindedly. You're listening to understand what other people are thinking, where they come from, their judgment, because they might have seen something that you missed, or they understand something that's in a way different from you that's valuable. So you want to be open-minded to it, but you are looking to use your judgment to narrow down to the best option or the best options. Okay. The third skill, we're going to do a little bit. We're going to do a little bit experientially, if you can. Bear with us. So this is something that we'd like you all to do. Take a minute. Let's maybe not even a minute, but the question, the challenge we have for you is, how might we increase the digital capabilities of all of our employees? Okay. When you have an idea for how you might do that, type it into the chat. Okay, and we'll read through the chat and pull a couple of these ones out and see what we have. So when we start to see things in the chat, please let me know. Okay. So someone said we've got Ivan saying, show them what is there for them. And Ivan, that's an interesting idea, but it sounds like that would probably be expensive. And when we've tried that in the past, it just hasn't worked. Okay. Nikki, with training, you know, training, we have excellent training already. It's not the way we do things though. You know, we're not really, that's not really what we're all about. And send them to school sounds expensive. A kickoff meeting, there's all kinds of, when you have those meetings, there's all kinds of legal issues and practical issues with that. Do you see what, I'm gonna stop us there in terms of the ideas. So what I had you guys do was I had you diverge, right? I gave you this great challenge. How might we increase the digital capabilities of all our employees? And boom, you went at it and came up with some ideas. What was I doing? Right, I was judging. I was in convergence. I was judging each and every idea I heard, and I was using some killer phrases, some classics. I kind of rely on the ones I like the most, right? But I had you guys come with ideas. I was killing them using killer phrases. The boss won't go for it, right? We've been doing it a long way and it works. You know, it's too expensive. Legal might have an issue. We hear these killer phrases all the time in meetings. Someone comes up with an idea, and right away someone has something to say to point out a flaw or a weakness or why it won't work or what's wrong with it. And the thing is, when you do this, when this is happening in meetings, you get nowhere, right? You really don't make any progress. I use the analogy of a car. I asked you guys to diverge, and I said, put your foot on the gas, let's go for it, let's come up with a lot of ideas. And then I responded to that by putting my foot equally as hard on the brake. Whoa, boom, kill, 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 shoot down, shoot down, shoot down. And when that happens, in a car, you get a lot of smoke, you get a lot of noise, you got a lot of heat, but you don't get any progress. And the same thing happens in meetings, right? You get people angry with each other. You get, it heats up because people get passionately involved and there's conflict. And at the same time, not a lot of ideas get shared because they're all beaten up and worked over before anything can be, anything actually survives. And people walk out with hurt feelings, but we don't make a lot of progress, okay? And so the third skill is how we prevent the mix of divergence and convergence, all right? And that is, we have to defer judgment. You first do divergence and then you do convergence. And when you look at this model, you know, this graphic we have, it seems quite straightforward. It's pretty easy to understand, but it's a skill, right? All of these are skills. The more you do them and more you are aware of how you're doing when you're doing them, the better you'll be at them, right? But typically, people know when you're diverging, brainstorming, that you're supposed to come up with a lot of ideas, but most people are not aware of the idea that we should be deferring judgment. And only when we're happy with the quality we have, or the ideas, the quantity we have, do we then worry about quality. Okay, so I'm gonna move us forward because I can talk about this all day. If you have questions you want to put in the chat about the skills, please do. And at nearest point in time, we'll respond to them. Okay. But now coming back to it, we're now going to get into the process, but we're going to experience the process through the discussion of profiles and style. Okay. Because they map over each other directly. Your styles are going to map on directly to the different stages of the process. Okay, and so Ellen, would you like to take over from here?
Sure, thank you, Tim. This is a model of how organizations can solve problems, teams solve problems together when they have a good solution. What we see too often in companies is that people can come up with an idea that they generate, and that's the first thing we do. We bring in ideas from the outside, we find new problems and opportunities. We want to be careful, however, that we don't jump right away into getting things done and implementing them. That's where we chase symptoms rather than have a disciplined process that will get us at good results. So after generation, we take all of these ideas and the facts and so forth that have been put together, and we say, well, now what does this all mean? what's the real issue here? What's the concept we're going to go forward with? And what are some ideas for how we could begin to bring this to life? But as you notice, not all ideas are good ones. And so what we need then are is the phase we call optimizing. Now we start to look at those abstract ideas and say, okay, what would we do practically? And how would we go about doing it if we really wanted to bring these concepts and these ideas into reality, into fruition? And then finally, someone comes up with it, tries to sell it to the group, and then we go out and implement it. Once we've implemented it, of course, a whole bunch of new problems may arise, and we start the cycle over again. And people have different preferences for different process stages. As I was talking, you might have even noticed that you kind of related more to one aspect of the process than the other. And this might give us a clue to what we call your process styles.
Okay. So to take us through into a little further deep dive into the styles and the profile, we're in the process. We first want to kind of establish how we think of creativity. All right. And it can be described as a mathematical equation, right? So creativity is a function of your knowledge times your imagination times your evaluation times action. All right. And knowledge, again, is what you bring with you, what you have. If you have no knowledge of the problem we're trying to solve that you're interested in, really unlikely that you're going to do anything creative. Nothing, you don't know enough, right? But let's say you do have great knowledge. If you have no imagination, you can't really think of anything new, anything imaginative, your innovation will obviously suffer. But again, say you do, you have great knowledge and you have great imagination. But if you aren't able to pick the best ones from the list, from all your options, if you can't identify the best ones, if you can't evaluate and judge, your innovation and creativity is going to absolutely action. If action doesn't happen, for us, you haven't been creative. A problem has to be solved. The solution has to be implemented if we're to say that yes, we did something creative and innovative. Okay, so let's take this into how we talk about it and how we relate it to the process. So we really look at that knowledge part. We're really interested in two ways that people gain knowledge, and this is a simplified view of it. You can get more complex if you like, but at a very straightforward level, you learn through two ways, and everyone's a blend. We do both, but people tend to prefer one more than the other. One is learning through direct experience. That is, you don't wait to think it through or to read it. You dive right in and you learn more through trial and error. You try something out. Did it work? No. Okay, I'll try something else. The opposite of that is learning through detached abstract reasoning. Rather than just jumping in and getting started, you you tend to sit back and think it through, maybe come up with a hypothesis or a pathway forward that you think will be successful, and then you try it out, right? And so we can do both, but we tend to prefer one more than the other, all right? Next, we just want to talk about how we use our knowledge. And again, very simple. There's more different ways we could talk about ways of using knowledge, but for us, in terms of creativity and innovation, really keep it simple. Two things: ideation and evaluation. Ideation is generating options, diverging. Evaluating is convergence, right? And again, we do both. We can't, as much as you might think it about people you know, everyone has some imagination, right? Everyone does. And everyone has the ability to judge and evaluate, right? But we just tend to prefer using one more than the other, okay? And when we put these two axes together, we end up with the four different styles. So a strong generator is someone who prefers learning through direct experience and using that knowledge to come up with more options. A strong conceptualizer prefers learning through abstract reasoning, but still using that knowledge to come up with, to ideate. A strong optimizer, learning through abstract thinking, but prefers using their knowledge to evaluate. And finally, implementers strongly prefer learning through direct experience and using that knowledge to evaluate options. Okay, and so going forward with this, Ellen, I'll let you take over. So talk about strong generators.
All right. And as I go through these, I'd like each of you to just think about yourself and maybe some of the other people you know that you work with and see if something strikes you about these different styles. Generators, as Tim mentioned, are people that use their direct experience to bring in ideas. These are the folks in your organization that go out, they talk to people, they read things, and they come back and they say, you know, there's something we really ought to do. They don't need to have it defined. They just know that it's a problem that's out there. There's an opportunity, and they're really good at sensing what's happening in their environment. And they'll come in and they just want to get it started. They'll give you a little bit of data, but they say, you know, somebody really ought to do something about this. One of the tools we use for helping people who are not necessarily strong in generating, but also to get all of the diversity of ideas out, is a tool we call fact finding. You can bring in facts from your performance data, your SWOT analysis, all that kind of data can be very useful to bring in. But even with all of that, we ask people to diverge on these 6 questions to find out what they think they know about the situation we're talking about, what they don't know, why they think it's a problem, what they might have already tried in terms of trying to deal with the problem. If the problem were solved, what would they really have that they don't have now? And finally, what could we be assuming that you don't have to assume? Because we have our biases, we have our assumptions, and here we ask people to see if they can stand back from those and really look at assumptions that could be keeping them in a box. We have all of these out. To our earlier point about divergence and convergence, we have all of those out, and then we select the facts that are the most relevant. So that's our diverge and converge. Conceptualizers are the people who are able to take all these different data points and put them together. If you have a bunch of data points and somebody says there's no way these fit together, a strong conceptualizer will find the way that they link. These are the people that develop the ideas from the data. And they're patient, they're willing to think things through. In fact, they really don't like to move until they feel they have the big picture pieces put together and they have a concept. And so they're the ones that are really going to help you understand in your problem solving what's really going on. One of the tools that we use in the conceptualization phase is something we call how might we. We take all of those facts and we turn them into questions that have to do. So if we were to say our process is too complicated, that might be turned into how might we simplify our process? And this is really a transformational shift in thinking if you can get this in your organizations. When you hear killer phrases, we can't because, the top team will never buy into it, it's going to cost too much. This is your opportunity to say, how might we get the top team to buy into it? How might we find some cost-effective ways to do this? And so you can see that there's a real shift from a focus on the problem that kind of stops us to opening up new possibilities simply by converting it into how might we. As I mentioned before, the conceptualizers like to come up with a whole bunch of things that in theory could work. Optimizers are not so interested in it just working in theory. They want to know what are the best ideas, and by that, what's really practical. if we look at all of these, what has the best chance of really making a difference? They also want to confirm if something is right. And they're the people who are going to help you come up with step-by-step plans. These are your project managers, your people who say, we can do this, but we can't do that, and this is why. And one of the things we do for optimization as a group is generate, first of all, the best ideas that we've converged on. And so maybe we came up with 4 really great ideas, but now we have to see which of these we really want to take forward. So we develop criteria that we think we ought to use to evaluate and judge what we want to really go forward with. And this is something a lot of organizations do in terms of utility analysis and so forth. But it becomes really important to help people think this through from an optimization standpoint. And finally, we have the implementers. These are the people who get acceptance from others for changes. They're the ones who can go and sell an idea. They make changes work and stick. Somehow, if it's not working, they can adapt. They can find a way to make it work. They'll do anything and try anything to make it the solution work. And they really like to experiment, and they'll take the sort of the theoretical things that maybe marketing offered and say, well, yeah, but how are we going to make this work in the real world? So these are the people who will tell you what's going on on the ground and what needs to be done to make something actually work. Now, when generators are with generators or conceptualizers are together, they have a wonderful time on a team. It's a party because one idea leads to another, one concept leads to another, and it is really a lovely experience. The issue is they may not care about whether something actually happens as a result of it, but boy, have they done a good job of coming up with ideas and concepts that really could work. The issue is sometimes they can wind up on the shelf. The same thing can be true for people who prefer optimization and implementation. You get them together and they love how things work together. They love having fun in coming up with plans and trying things out. But what we notice is when we start to get them differing styles together, then the party's over sometimes. There can be tension. Implementers who have a bias for action look at conceptualizers and say, why does anyone pay them? They don't do anything. All they do is think, okay? So what value do they add? I mean, what are they actually doing to move the company forward? Now, alternatively, conceptualizers look at implementers and they'll say, these people are dangerous. They'll do anything. They may not, then they'll do it maybe without even thinking. And they're willing to kind of keep banging their heads at the wall, still trying to make something that isn't going to work, and won't give up on it. Optimizers look at generators, and sometimes it works their last nerve. They think they're not able to focus on the real problem. And just when I think I've got something to work on from them, they come up with 5 more new problems before we even get the first one solved. And optimizers say, gosh, these people are really hard to pin down. You don't, because as soon as you think you've got them, then they come off with something else. Generators, on the other hand, look at optimizers and think, these are the green eye shade people. They're so narrow-minded. They can't see the big picture. They think they got the right answer, but what if it's for the wrong problem? And so there's this kind of tension that goes back and forth with them too. I'd be curious to know in the chat if any of you have experienced these kinds of tensions in your own teams. Are we getting any? Okay, then let's go on, Tim.
Well, there's a question about what how HMW stands for. HMW stands for how might we, and that's it's an abbreviation we use. And so apologize for putting up a TLA that no one else was aware of. And of course, TLAs are 2 or 3 letter acronyms. Yeah, so how HMW is how might we, and you if you use how mights. If you use how might, you're creating a solution finding question. Ask anybody, how might we do something? The response you're going to get from them will be a solution. Okay, so moving into job types for the different styles. Ellen, do you want me to discuss it, or are you on a roll?
Oh, yeah, no, I'll go on a roll.
Okay.
So one of the things we notice, and this is not always true, but there are certain occupations that tend to draw people with specific styles. So anything in which generating a lot of ideas is important. We find a lot of generators in those environments. Teachers have to come up with new ways of thinking about things to teach. Marketing has to come up with a bunch of ideas based on what they see out in the marketplace. So we tend to find a lot of generators in these occupations. Conceptualizers, these are the people who you'll find in organizational development. You'll find them in research and development, strategic planning. Often you'll find conceptualizers here. When we need to know why and have a clear idea of why we're choosing to do what we're doing, that's where you see conceptualizers. Optimizers are very common in engineering, IT systems development, finance, where we look at all of the plans and say, what can we support financially and what can't we? And technical customer support, where we listen to all the symptoms and are able to say, all right, here's what's going on and here's what you can do about it. And finally, with regard to implementers, a lot of them are in sales. Manufacturing and production is, of course, very much an implementation. Customer relations, how do we help people who have an issue, and how do we, on the spot, solve that problem? So whenever it's important to get things done, that's when the implementers shine.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to move us on to, I'm going to share some scatter diagrams of teams and departments that we've encountered over the years working with different clients, and just sort of describe or go through what the relationship between their team profiles, their team style, and the situations they find themselves in. Okay, this is from a bank in Canada, actually, that they were, this was a department, they were tasked with a very competitive marketplace, coming up with new financial products, credit cards, so on and so forth, to capture market share. And they were doing a very good job of putting new things in the marketplace, but they were really high failure rate. And it was to the point that senior management had noticed and had come to the leadership of the department and said, you really got to, there's a lot of inefficiency, a lot of waste. You got to get yourselves, you've got to right the ship here. So they brought us in. We gave everybody the profile, and this was the scatter diagram for them. And what you would notice is that it's very heavily dominated by implementers. And more than that, there's the greatest number of people prefer learning through direct experience, right? So if you add in the generators, the overwhelming majority of the department are towards direct experience. Where they are light is in the conceptualizing and optimization, the thinking parts. And when we showed them this, and we spent time working with them about what they might do, basically the outcome and the advice they were given was that they had to spend more time in conceptualizing and optimizing first and foremost. What they were doing is they were generating and implementing, going from, hey, here's something that might work. Let's try it. Let's go and do it. And people who were conceptualizers and optimizers shared feelings about kind of being run over, that they didn't really count as much. They were always kind of forced and rushed, and no one was really listening to them. So we told basically the advice was the implementers had to be better conceptualizers and better optimizers. It's not their natural preference, but it doesn't mean that they can't do it well. It just means they have to apply effort, right? They have to try harder to make it work. And it's certainly possible to do. And so we just spent time with them, giving them some training about how to do a good job of generating, conceptualizing, optimizing, and implementing. But obviously, they were pretty good at implementing. Okay. The next one will show you. This is an aerospace company whose tagline was "We're on it." And this was a typical training group we had for them. We trained 400 of their senior managers. And this is one training session, but it's pretty much the same for all of them. I think we encountered one generator in our training over a period of 4 or 5 years. And that person shortly after our training left the company. So they were struggling because they weren't doing any long-term research and development. And that was something that the senior team had recognized as a major weakness for them. And so the training we gave was to help them understand, again, the importance of generating, conceptualizing, and optimizing, and then getting into implementation. And so again, you're not, it's not maybe not your natural preference, but it doesn't mean that you can't be good in those different areas, even if you don't prefer them. You just have to make an effort to do so. Okay. Another one where this is a manufacturing company we worked with that was reporting all the things you can see listed in the bullet points. All of these problems, they're firefighting, duplication of effort, rework, quality defects. That's a very clear indicator of a lack of optimization, right? Optimizers want to make sure things are done right, they're done well. And you can see in the group here, there's only one optimizer. And again, it's a little heavier, dominated by implementers who, remember, implementers are very good at solving on the fly, making things happen. So they're busy, they're getting things done, but they may not be doing the forward thinking and patient thinking to solve the core root problems rather than just addressing symptoms and keeping things going. All right, so again, the advice was they had to get stronger in the other areas, but in particular, they had to really do a much better job in optimization, pay attention to it, and make it an important priority. This is a classic example, one of my favorites. It's a health insurance company. The team was tasked with coming up with the strategic plan, and just when they were about done, and something new happened that changed the game, and they had to go back, revisit the strategic plan, and they were doing this over and over and over again. They couldn't decide and finalize their plan that they were going to go forward and recommend. The one person in the scatter diagram that is an implementer was the quote unquote secretary for the group. We didn't call her that. That's what her title was. That's how she referred to herself. But when you work with us and you're in the room, you're filling out the profile, and it adds to the richness. So the only person in the room who had the style needed to move to action was not necessarily an official part of the team. All right, here's an example of where it's a good thing to see a dominant style. In this case, implementers, right? If I'm in a plane or you're in a plane and we're approaching the airport and about to land, we really don't want them there saying, "What's a new way we might land these planes today? Well, let's try something else. What else might we do?" No. Get me on the ground just the way you always have. If you've got problems around that, you'll figure it out, get it on the fly, but get me on the ground safely the way you always do. Just implement for us, please. Okay. The last one, last two we're going to talk about. So this is a market research team. They're tasked to develop a really good understanding of what's going on, and they came up with a PowerPoint package with 58 slides, right? And so the whole presentation was going to explain what they learned, what it means, how they figured it out, what they decided to do, and then what they recommend. But they're about to present to this team, right, with a group that looks like this. And implementers are the dominant group here, and they don't really care about why. They just want to know what we're doing, like where and when. What do you recommend? Great. Now let's get going. And so our recommendation to the market research team was to repackage their presentation. Start with their recommendations. Tell them what they want to hear. And then if this team has any questions or they want to understand better, then you can dive into that presentation you have with all of that data and information and rationale. But make them happy. Give them what they want, and then go from there. Don't make them sit through a long presentation that they don't really care about. Not saying that's not valuable, but it's the audience you care about. So make sure that you've got something for them, and make them happy. Okay. So Ellen, do you want to take us home from here?
Yeah. So here are a few lessons we hope you're able to take home. We've emphasized these individual styles, but it's really important to know that we're all a blend of these preferences. We all do all four of those functions of the style, but we prefer some more than others. The other things is that these are not like a disc profile. These are not traits and personality traits. These are states we're in when we problem solve with each other, how we prefer to engage the problems, but in that scenario. Now, you've noticed that some people may come from occupations where they do a lot of it, but nonetheless, you can move from state to state, from style to style as needed if you have a more flexible profile. Heterogeneous teams are more innovative, but they have less satisfaction. One of the things we didn't mention is unless you're in Silicon Valley or have a business that's all about creativity, generators are in short supply in corporations. And that's why you'll see many corporations and many industries, such as finance, law, construction, have difficulty sometimes with innovation because they are overweighted with the other styles. And as we talked about, there are different job functions that favor different quadrants, but this can also relate to sometimes tensions you'll find among different functions in an organization if they tend to draw conflicting styles within their function. And so one of the, several important aspects of really understanding your Basadur innovation profile and that of a team is, first of all, to be confident in your own creative and innovation style and know where you can play on the team to be most effective. The other thing is to appreciate the value other styles bring to the whole innovation equation. The third thing is to really look at cognitive diversity as well as other types of diversity as a proven competitive advantage. You can have people from different ethnic groups, but if they all tend to go towards one style or another, you may still have challenges with innovation. Tim showed you how we can diagnose team problems. Sometimes we can look at a scatter diagram and say, oh, I bet this team is having some challenges here. Sometimes we use this to set up successful teams. We see that there may be an overabundance of a couple of styles, and there may be other people in the organization that have the missing styles that we can bring in to help the team work through their problems more effectively. And the other aspect of this is to recognize, as we talked about the innovation cycle and the different styles that go with it, is that innovation is an ongoing, continuous process. It's not a discrete event or a happening. New problems come in that we need to conceptualize, we need to find the best answers, we need to implement them, and then that takes us, as we said, around the cycle again. So we hope that from our chat this morning, there are some practical take-home tools that you can start to use right away in your companies. The simple tool of having people defer judgment between their divergence and their convergence, being really sensitive to when the killer phrases are coming in and help people stand back from that. Use fact-finding to really flush out multiple perspectives. This is where diversity can be so helpful, because people will begin to see that other people's facts, other people's notions, other people's experiences can be quite different than their own. And it really is one of the most revealing aspects of the methodology is good fact-finding. If you're an implementer, really think about how to sell your plan first to people before you just go do it, so that you're sure that you have the consensus and supports around it. And finally, think about how one can synchronize and leverage the perspectives of all four styles so that you don't have conflicts that can become obstacles for you. And so if we come back to what we talked about at the very beginning, is unleashing the creativity of your teams. What we mean is continually looking for and defining problems, solving them, and implementing the solutions. Knowing what you have to do to be innovative, that you have to generate ideas, you need to conceptualize them, you need to optimize and pick the best ones, and then you need to make sure that you can actually implement them. It means knowing the style preferences of each other and being able to respect those differences and see how they can work together. And also knowing your style, you can predict where you might have difficulty kind of getting with it because your style does not enjoy that aspect of the cycle. But if you can learn all of the different phases and learn the skills of the different phases, then you're going to be able to be much more valuable in your teams and much more effective, because you've been able to adapt and flex your style to do what the team needs at that time. So as we conclude here, we want to give you a couple of free offers. The first is to let you take the Basadur profile for yourself. We have a URL here where you can go take it and you'll get your results right away. You can download it, and you can also download a booklet that will give you a lot more information and will recap some of the things we've talked about today. Tim and I have noticed also that there's a real need for these processes to not be part of just the application sessions that we do with teams, but how to help people who are leaders running meetings begin to use some of these concepts and tools to get much higher level results. And so we invite you also to join our LinkedIn group, which is Leading Effective Online Meetings. And we're going to be doing a lot more, do a deeper dive in a lot of the concepts we've talked about here today to be able to equip you to run better meetings. And if you want to contact us, here is our contact information for any questions you may not have been able to get answered today or that occur to you after our session.
Absolutely.
Great. So Wendy, I think we're ready for you.
Oh, you guys are the best. I'm very excited about taking the assessment myself. I can certainly pinpoint that I am a generator right off the bat. So thank you for that. And thank you to everyone for attending today. And Tim, I'm just going to take away the screen for a minute. There's a couple of things I just wanted to highlight before you guys go. And that is, we at Turnkey are also offering outplacement services right now for anybody that's in need. We hope you're not, but if you do, we're more than happy to help. We know it's a sensitive time, so please reach out. And finally, there is just one more slide in the deck that allows you guys to get in touch with us at any time. Feel free certainly to reach out to Ellen and Tim. And Ellen and Tim, thank you for your expertise. And we can certainly tell there's been a lot of research that's gone into this. I think we're all excited about taking it and seeing where we can leverage it. I know I am in our team. Sheila and I were kind of having a little back and forth, and we're a little bit the same and a little bit opposite. So that's why we make a good team. So thank you very much, you guys, and we look forward to the next summit. Enjoy your day. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.